What's going on? We've got an excellent episode of Vinyl Happy Hour for you with some great breakdowns and a little inside package look at some special release records coming out this week at Culture Shock Clothing and Records right here in Rockford, Illinois. I'm Skyler Davis, host of our little YouTube show and owner of Culture Shock Clothing and Records. The records we're going to be showing off also, while they are very limited, some of them should still be available on our website also at cultureshockshop.com if you're not a local resident making your way in to check out the racks of all the new wax we're putting out this week. But if you're watching this, I would love for you to also like the video if you like what we're doing, please. And also subscribe to the channel so you can get updates and see some of our other videos as we're posting about a lot of record releases, and we're going to be going into some other kind of specialty series and stuff coming up soon too on rare record covers, and I'm going to do a special thing too about some stereo equipment questions we've been getting. But let's first start off with this indie store exclusive. That's why I'm actually going to start talking about Sergio Simpson's Cut and Grass Volume 2. This is a special limited indie store exclusive. Of course, he's a Tennessee guy and stuff like that. Or actually, no, he's a Kentucky guy. I think this was recorded in Tennessee. So, got some of my favorite, actually, when I first started drinking bourbon was Woodford Reserve from his home state of straight Kentucky bourbon there. That's a great drink to have. But what's really special about this Bluegrass album is it's kind of like different covers and takes on some of Sergio Simpson's other songs. So he worked together with a great group of people with bringing in a lot more banjos, fiddles, and other things like that. But what's really special, not only are they doing indie store exclusives, which mean this version is only available at independently owned record stores, it's glow in the dark. And I was like, that is so clever. You know, you got your blue Kentucky moon, stuff like that, and a lot more. So this packaging, you can see kind of the glossy part. We're not going to cut the lights and do this. I did lock myself in the bathroom last night to see which parts glow. It was pretty funny. So I checked the record too. The record does not glow in the dark. But the image of him on the lawnmower, all the lettering and the moon, but even the track listing on the back and the record details glow in the dark too. So that was pretty cool. I've never seen an indie store exclusive that glue in the dark that wasn't a record store day release. Now also, let's keep in mind, this is really great music too. Not only is it cool packaging, stuff like that, very smooth, very kind of upstepped, some bluegrass stuff. I know some of the songs from his regular album releases too, but to hear them being done in this bluegrass way, it's just got a lot of zip to it, and he's a great sounding singer too. So smooth vocals, really stepped up, a lot of great instrumentation, and that's where sometimes, you know, bluegrass, kind of like jazz or something, if it's not good, or the fiddles are too loud, or the banjos are too loud, or the vocals are too loud, it can be kind of harsh. But they did a great job recording this, so I think it sounds really good. This is Volume 2. The Volume 1 was a double LP, which came out just a few months ago, and that was cool too because they did like green and yellow instead of the black and blue color. So it's kind of John Deere looking, kind of cool looking. Interesting version of that. So it's cool that he was able to get both releases to come out as an indie store exclusive. So check that out. This is from the Cowboy Arm Sessions, Cut and Grass Volume 2 from Sergio Simpson. That is also up on our website at cultureshockshop.com. It's a couple bucks cheaper if you just want the plain black vinyl version, which is also a great album. And when this one sells out, that's probably all that will be available. But I was kind of talking about glow-in-the-dark bluegrass and blue vinyl. We're also talking about some green African psychedelic music. So this is a release from Witch. This is called In the Past. This band has a very cool storied history. It's a scene that obviously must have flourished because there's some great sounding bands that came out of this area of Africa in the 70s. Zambia, there was a Zambian rock scene, which was probably one of the most known. They called it Zamrock. There was actually a Zamrock-like movement going on, so there was a lot of bands picking up on the American and British sound invasion of the garage and psychedelic stuff. Obviously, originals of these are very scarce, approaching $1,000 probably. So what's really cool is that Now Again Records is reissuing some of this kind of obscure music. And it's a great sounding recording too. If you haven't heard of them or going into it, you might think it's going to be a little rough sounding, coming from that year, coming from an area not so commercialized for music usually. But there's definitely a lot of elements of really kind of fuzzy guitar, psychedelic garage rock. There's some cool organ and stuff. And the vocals sound really good too. Honestly, I doubt English was probably the first language there. Maybe it is. I don't know, but it doesn't come across that bad at all. It kind of sounds like a lot of other teen or 20-something garage rock bands of the era. I definitely hear some sounds of like the Sonics and stuff like that too. Most people are going to recognize, of course, Rolling Stones sound, but it's just a little different. It's not so mainstream and commercial. It's just so cool sounding. But when Now Again released these, actually like 10 years ago, we had them at the store, and I just kicked myself a few years back because we sold all of them. There's a few different releases that came out, and I never bought a copy for myself. And then one day I was like, oh, I want to get some Witch records, and they were all gone, and I noticed people were selling them for quite a bit of money online, and I was like, dang, I should have got those. So luckily, patience is really what pays off in the record game. I've noticed finally the years of experience I've had. Sometimes you regret missing out on things, and prices either keep creeping up or you just simply can't find a record. But we restock and always search down and get in new releases every single Friday. That's why we do these videos every Friday, or every Thursday, I should say, so you kind of have an idea of what's coming out for the weekend and don't miss out on something. But I also like what this little write-up says. It does say that this band was electrified on a diet of James Brown and the Stones and Deep Purple. So there's definitely some kind of funkier soul mixture to it also. I'd just be interested to see what the scene must have been like. My mind is like, you know, I think that the corrupt government or something ended up happening and shutting things down, and there was even I was reading some stuff saying that they actually, power was being cut off sometimes to people, and that there was a curfew whenever a new government kind of took over, a new regime, and that they had a curfew, so people still wanted to go to shows and see rock bands play, and that they actually had to lock people in all night. If you went to a show, you were there for the night, and they wouldn't let you out till, you know, 7 or 8 in the morning. So that could have either been really boring if you just wait around for the morning, or maybe these people were partying all night and playing have bands playing all night. It could have been kind of fun, I guess, especially if you're too young to know what's really going on. But Ricky Lalonga, I believe, was also in this band, and he went on and did some solo albums after this. Sadly, you know, the Sam rock movement kind of died down. I think also changes in the government, and a lot of the people got older, so they moved into some other countries or left or stopped playing music. But how great that these recordings have been preserved and reissued for us to be able to listen to still, I don't know, a lot of years later, 50 years later or whatever. Now, not only is this is their second release in the past, not only is this interesting that it got reissued, but their very first album, The Witch Introduction, has also been reissued. And instead of doing this on color vinyl or whatever, they actually issued this with the original artwork when it was on a private label before they were actually signed to a local label there. And yeah, so it didn't have, the other one kind of looked like the other one, the pictures of all the guys from the band there. The other thing really interesting about this jacket is that it lists the guys with the photo, everyone from the band, with their birth date, which is kind of strange. I haven't seen a lot of bands where it says, you know, oh, he was born, you know, December 24th, 1955. Like, I don't know, it's just kind of strange to see their birth date listed. Just a little different, you know. Like I say, they were in such a secluded area of the world, probably everything, even though they have their influences, just comes out a little different sounding than your usual band. I remember years and years ago, it's probably with Lauren, I think, maybe we were in Madison or somewhere at some store, and I heard one of their songs being played, maybe at the college radio station was playing it or something like that, and I was like, pre-smartphone era for me. I remember like looking up the lyrics or something like that, or grabbing my wife's phone, trying to figure out what the heck band I was hearing, because it's so interesting sounding. It's like, I don't know who this is. I couldn't quite place it. And then I think it was actually from the Witch album, Lazy Bones, which right now we are taking pre-orders for. That's actually my favorite album of theirs probably. These two are both really excellent too, a little more garagey. Their third album gets a little more psychedelic, a little fuzzier. And we are taking pre-orders, so not only can you get these records, you can pre-order the upcoming releases from the Witch release or any other new artist on our website as well. We have a link for that too, for you to get right to it, or you can go to cultureshockshop.com. Why do I have this one? Oh yeah, we're talking about green. I was talking about, yeah, green record, you know, like that. So we're talking about some more Grant Green now. This is reissues. I was just trying to use the word green in there. But this is part of the Blue Note 80th anniversary reissue series. So we are getting a lot of reissues in also, not just new releases every week, but some of these are just kind of scarce. Like a lot of the production has been cut short, probably with the pandemic going on still. It's been hard for us to get some stuff. So we got to let you know when we're getting things in, and you shouldn't wait long to get them if you really want an album. Honestly, these Blue Note reissue series sound so good. Both this Tone Poet series, they're calling it, and the 80th anniversary series are all completely analog mastered. There's no digital mastering involved in it whatsoever. It's from the original Blue Note reel tapes that were recorded by the record engineer, and these sound so good. Honestly, I have no motivation to find an original pressing, original copy of these albums because they sound so dang good. Also, the other problem too is finding original copies in this kind of condition are often, $200 to even now it's getting $700 or $800 for a lot of these Blue Note albums. A lot of them were from the 50s and 60s. But yeah, just some great albums. There's also the 75th anniversary series. There's some other, this is actually from a few years back, but these were out of print for a minute. So we are getting in some of the older Blue Note reissues too, but right now you want to jump on these 80th anniversary ones. Not all of them have this little 80s sticker on it though, which is kind of annoying. Some of them do, some of them don't. But the other trick I've noticed is you can check 2019 was actually the true 80th anniversary of Blue Note Records. So on the back, you can do a quick little look and see it says 2019, is when they did the remastering of it or whatever from the tapes. And these were also pressed and made in Germany. Very high quality pressing, great sounding albums, dead quiet. All you hear is the music, the instruments, how it should be. Also, we're talking about guitar. Obviously Sergio Simpson, a great guitar player, which, although they have a lot of other, drums and organs that really set them apart, the guitar is really what drives those albums, and jazz, a lot of times too, people think, oh, it's all just old piano and upright bass and organ and piano and horns. This is interesting to see that this is just organ, drums, and guitar. So there is actually some really nice guitar jazz out there too, and you can always check the covers over if you're looking to get into some jazz, find out what instruments are being used. Obviously, the Blue Note recordings are really loud and sound great with all the horn players too. They had some amazing sax, a lot of amazing trumpet, even a couple great trombone players. But it's cool to see some guitar thrown in there. Next, I want to mention, this is another kind of a reissue, but it's kind of confusing the details around it. This is from one of my favorite rappers, Freddie Gibbs. Freddie Gibbs did this Pinata album with Madlib, making all the beats and all the production for this. This Pinata album is actually a few years old. This is a reissue, and they did this kind of special version of it. This actually came out on Record Store Day last year. This version, this album cover. The original album cover looks completely different and is a double LP. But this special reissue, they did completely new artwork, and it's supposed to look like a blaxploitation film, like 1960s, 70s era. All the black films that were being made and kind of had a lot of action and stuff like that. So it's a fake movie. It's I forgot the artist's name though. I'll see if I can call him out real quick. But it's cool art, way they did it, completely different for this series. But what else I noticed is it's a single LP instead of a double LP. So they kind of cut down this thing. So it even says original motion picture soundtrack, but it's not a soundtrack, it's just one of their albums, But they cut it down to single LP, and I actually prefer it this way. It's actually kind of more to just the killer cuts that I like. I'd like to get a double, the original version of it too, that'd be cool, but it's kind of hard to find. But even cooler, I noticed that I finally got a copy of this. They actually have different label too on the record. And if you can see, although it doesn't say Blue Note, it says Madlib Invasion. That is the Blue Note logo. So you can see the Blue Note logo with the blue oval. They actually put that on the label. So they're kind of paying their respect and paying their due to some of the stuff that they've sampled and they grew up on probably, including the blaxploitation types of films and stuff they're interested in. So they did a Blue Note style label too, which is completely different than the original label. You can see how it's got the classic L-shaped cutout, kind of like all the Blue Note records had. So even though this is a hip hop album, there's a lot of cool samples in it, and a lot of this stuff is really based off of jazz and funk, and that's kind of where they build their backbone on all the beats that they make. But even more than just having the Blue Note thing, and this is where me being the music geek connoisseur really pays off, and I love to notice these details, is besides the Blue Note outline, that little, whatever you want to call that, blue water looking stripe pattern, that is from the Pete LaRocca album. So it's like they incorporated a completely unrelated album. This is, mid-60s release, 1965 Blue Note release. Joe Henderson's playing horn on there too. Yeah, he's the tenor sax player, but Pete LaRocca is actually played with a lot of other artists, but this is one of the few records that he was actually the band leader on. He's the drummer for this. played with a lot of other people, like all the Blue Note guys kind of mix it around, kind of how some of the hip hop artists do. They all guest star on a lot of other people's albums, it seems like. And Madlib too, the producer, he's got solo albums, and he's done stuff with tons of other artists. And that's kind of what I think kind of sets a lot of rap, and especially jazz, apart, is how many players play around with other people. Obviously bands, every now and then you'll see a little thing, but very seldom do a lot of bands just mix up members or do a whole album together. You know, with rock bands, with rock music, it just seems to be so different like that. Like, that's cemented as a band. When they part ways, they either break up or go solo. But you don't spend a whole career playing with all these different people and picking up all those different elements and different, you know, influences. So I just love to see the jazz influence and the old film influence on the artwork and the label of that Freddie Gibbs album. So I just kind of want to point that out. I think that's about it for this week. Like I said, this is just the tiniest tip of the iceberg of some of the new releases and reissues and new vinyl coming into the store. This was like a limited run. They only did, I believe, 2,000. Now the rumor is 3,000 copies of this because the Record Store Day release was limited to 2,000, but it's the same jacket, just a different label. So there's like another way to kind of sneak them out. Evidently, the rumor was that there was a defect in some of the records maybe, so they never got released. So that's why they still had extra jackets or extra allocation available. So these are, I believe, only for indie record stores, but anyway, get it while you can. It's also, it's a really sick album too. We have so many other great new and used records coming out, so check out the store, check out our Facebook and Instagram too for some little updates, and keep checking back our video. Make sure you like and subscribe to our channel too so you find out more of what we're doing. And we will kind of show off and dig a little deeper into some records every single week for a new Vinyl Happy Hour. Have a good one. Cheers.